This is a Hot Pie Original.
You know what's disturbing? Well, there's a lot. What am I saying? This used to be I'm pretty good about leaving work, and then when I leave work, I leave work. But in the days of angry talk radio, this one was difficult for me. And it finally made me realize how dumb people really are. So I guess this may have been sort of the transformation of media, transformation of stupid voters. Just we became dumber and dumber. If you want to know why I think that, I'm going to give you plenty of evidence why. So Trump is running and Trump is elected. I'm not blaming this on Trump. I'm blaming this on the voter. How shockingly dumb. And it took me a long time to figure it out. It took a lot of arguing to figure out the reality. So now there's evidence of their reality. So Trump runs and he wins. I don't know much about him, to be honest with you. And then I would hear over and over again, Billy Joe from Luling, Freddie Joe from Llano, Freddie Joe Sue, also from Llano. It's just a parade of people. Jeff, here's the deal. The economy, the economy, the economy. I would hear it over and over again. Voters say it over and over again. Admittedly, I'm nerdy and schooled on this stuff, so maybe it's not a completely fair disagreement, but I would hear it over and over again. The economy, look what he's doing. Look what he's doing. I would say, what is he doing? What are you talking about? The market, jobless, or unemployment, blah, blah, blah. And so then I would hear these things and I would question people. Wait a minute. You think the government is running the markets? You think the government is the one that's moving these stocks? Yeah. Huh, no. Wait a minute. And then the whole tariff thing. And the long story short is I would end up arguing economics with people and I kept getting frustrated and I would end up saying, well, that's just not a thing. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. I wanted to hear you. I wanted to argue with you. I even wanted to agree with you. You really don't know what you're talking about. You don't have any clue about economics at all. Fight. Here comes the next one. Freddie Joe from Georgetown. I heard Billy Joe call before me. You suck. Okay. What about economics that you know? Shut up, jackass. Then here comes Freddie Joe Sue calling. Yeah, what they said, you suck. Wait a minute, lady. I'm trying to argue economics. You don't even know what you're talking about. So it happened over and over again. I finally realized, oh my gosh, most of you have no idea what you're talking about. You don't care about economics. You don't know enough about economics to even argue. And that's true. It's true. I mean, the fact of the matter is nothing matters to most people. Nothing matters to most voters. Nothing of substance. And economic is about data. It is about data. It doesn't work. So I finally said, I give up. You're just stupid. I got nothing here. I can't talk economics with you because you don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry to say it, but that's largely true. People say all the time, well, I'm going to vote on the economy. No, you're not. You're going to vote on ass kissing. You're not voting on the economy. If you were, things would be completely different. I'm not saying that Trump wrecked the economy. He didn't build it either, and neither does Joe Biden. For all these people that used to say, oh, things are terrible or things are great, and I'd say, what are you talking about? Look at the city you live in. There's skyscrapers all over the place. You think some politician does that? No, they're not moving the market. The people taking risk and getting rewards are moving the market. So you don't need me to preach. So here's the proof. We are freaking clueless. Your neighbor, if you don't want to own it yourself, your neighbor is clueless. And this goes to show you that nothing matters but partisanship. Even when it comes to something so fundamental and data-driven as economics. I read to you from CNN Business. The U.S. economy is expected to grow this year at the fastest pace in decades. Consumer sentiment among self-identified Republicans, though, guess what? Those who identify themselves as Republicans believe the economy is worse today than it was in the middle of the pandemic. There's no indicator. Now, I have plenty of thoughts on how I think things will turn, but there's no way that anyone can have any measurable argument to say the economy that you're living in today, whatever measurement you want to use, is worse than it was during the pandemic? Now, why do you think they would say that? So when people are asked, this is a University of Michigan study, which has been used for decades, which is very, very good and very, very solid. It measures public sentiment as measured against economic data. So Republicans are saying, no, the economy today is worse than it was during the pandemic. Now, of course, if we were to do old school talk radio, we'd talk to Billy Joe and Freddie Joe and Billy Sue Joe, and we had all those conversations all over again, they would make up some reason. I would go, that's just not a thing. You're making that up. Well, Jeff Biden, blah, blah, blah. John McClellan is the co-founder and creator of ATX Hot Sauce in all 50 states, now in several retail outlets as well. So we're going to turn it over to the social media rock chef superstar, and we're going to walk through a few sauces and why you should buy. We've done beet heat, so we're second in line now for the tasting. Don't forget, everyone, go to atxhotsauce.com. So here we go.
All right, so this one is our smoked habanero 5-pepper. We smoke habaneros with ancho, pasilla.
Is that going to hurt?
This one? No,
Yeah.
This one's actually really, really good.
Okay.
This is like your traditional tapatilla, but without the vinegar in it, right? And because of that fermentation process that we've talked about all the time. This one is great on sandwiches, pizzas, things like that. Great on hot wings. I think you're going to really like this one too, especially the smoky flavor with the adobe chipotle and the smoked habaneros. We actually smoked the habaneros before we...
Does that go with the cab?
This would not go with the cab. This would go with the great Chenin Blanc, though.
I teed you up with that one.
Yeah.
That is good. That's good.
Isn't that good? It's just classic take. Well, it's a new take on a classic item. It's called smoked habanero 5-pepper.
All right, don't forget
One of my favorites.
Don't forget atxhotsauce.com. Republicans are more pessimistic about the economy right now than at any point since September 2010. Wait, what? We just lived through the greatest economic catastrophe of our life, and you think it's worse now? We're in the roaring 20s, man. Every indicator is the roaring 20s. I think it runs out, but right now it's the roaring 20s. You're going to tell me in the middle of the pandemic it was better? Billy Joe, come on. So I can see why they would think this. No, I know they do think this. University of Michigan researcher Richard Curtin, who leads the study, a closely watched study on consumer sentiment, it really doesn't matter who was elected until Trump. Consider what happened last fall, just before the president election. The University of Michigan's Consumer Sentiment Index among Democrats stood at 72.4. This proves you it goes both ways, by the way. You are hopeless hacks, even on economics. It's so frustrating. The University of Michigan's Consumer Sentiment Index among Democrats stood at 72.4 in October 2020. Compare that with 98. Now, forget the actual number. So on a scale of 100, Republicans were 98 out of 100. Got it? October 2020. Does anyone remember October of 2020? By the time Joe Biden was sworn in as president, sentiment among Democrats went up to 90. Republicans, it dropped 30 points, even though every indicator, every measurable indicator, practically every measurable indicator was going up. In other words, the feelings about the economy completely flipped. So nothing about the data was all improving, but the sentiment of the voter completely flipped. So you're not going to really care about the data. The data doesn't matter. Despite the pessimism among Republicans, there is plenty of evidence the U.S. economy is flourishing. It is. I'm not saying that it was terrible while Trump was in office. It doesn't matter who's in office. U.S. stocks hit records high on Tuesday. If this were 4 years ago, Billy Joe, Freddie Joe, and Billy Sue would all be calling saying, see what he did? Today, they're going to say, it's crap, it's a lie. Wait, what? Stock market hits an all-time high, I guess, on Tuesday. I think that changes, but that's as of right now. Oxford Economics expects the U.S. economy will grow at an average pace of 7.5%. That is the fastest growth since 1951. If you ask somebody in a survey, they tell you it's terrible. I think it's awful. Wait, the data says it's the best since 1951. So people just are going to see whatever they want to see, no matter what. No matter presented with data, it doesn't matter. The number of airline passengers hit a pandemic-era record. Demand is so strong that gas stations, grappling with shortages of tanker truck drivers, are struggling to maintain supply. I mean, we can go down the list. It's the roaring 20s right now. I think it all changes. I think it ends up in a far different place. I don't know that I'd want to be the president watching what happens to the economy in a few years, because it will turn, cycles happen. Politicians don't matter that much. But the point is, that survey, depending on who was in office, completely flipped, no matter what the numbers said. So somebody today polled about the numbers, even though the numbers are better, had a completely different view of the numbers, depending on who the president is. 30-point difference. So in other words, the economy is great under my guy. The economy sucks under your guy. Doesn't matter what the facts say.